Hello, welcome to another video of Full Circle with me, Onyx. And let's kind of move into it. And I really wanted to go deeper into our discussion of tarot and decodifying it. My last video, I ended up titling it Why Age 35 to 45 is the age to start learning occult. And that really, I can sum that up, is because you're kind of not superstitious and you have enough personal experience with life to then start understanding life and working with hidden things like deeper psychology and universal patterns without making it religious, without making it an escape or a superstition, without making it a crutch or a coping mechanism, without, hopefully it gives you some sobriety, it gives you some grounding, and you can handle these things. Because some of the things could be very frightening, you know, uh, to understand, whoa, there is a whole new world, there's deeper mechanics that are actually running the show than what you were ever taught and what you were ever known. You know, you won't fall into being a victim. You know, why didn't they teach us in school? Why was this kept secret? Paranoia, victim mindset, martyrdom. People do that. So I think, it's kind of like giving a loaded gun to a child and expecting them to have the the wisdom to respect the tools. And because kids, give them a water gun, give them a toy sponge Nerf gun, and they're shooting everyone and everything, and there's no thought of consequence. There's no thought of how that affects the other person, you know, how annoying it is to be constantly vigilant that you might get sprayed with the unpleasant sensation of cold water or a Nerf gun hitting you in the face. And so, same with cards, uh, same with numbers, same with learning these patterns and tools and energy. Uh, we kind of have fun with it and we don't think about how that's truly affecting the other person, the consequence, the ramification, the snowballing, you know. We don't have a lot of foresight and wisdom to see the bigger picture and how it may come back to us or how it may alter things. You can't unsee what you see. You can't unknow what you know. You can't block out these experiences. It changes you. Like, you're going to now be thirsty for more. So much so that you might quit your job, drop all your friends, and do what a lot of occultists do: become penniless, broke uh, mystics, a monk. And so, and this is the challenge. And we think in our pride, we think, oh, that won't happen to me. I have self control. Well, same with an addict. So I really like in comic books, Zatanna was a magic addict and had to learn sobriety. And because it's real, once you, summons your first angel or astral project for the first time, those experiences can be so cool. You don't want to watch TV shows, or you don't want to go pay for a movie. You don't want to, you know, do some of the responsible things like go see your mom, make sure she's okay and has food, you know, and it can get really chronic. And I have to admit, I've been to those places and I go to those places. So I kind of wish I would have taken the warnings a little bit more serious. Um, but I also feel like it's part of my life path. And when you choose it as your life path, it means you're going to what I call man up, and you're going to accept the consequences. So if you want to be a really powerful person in a company, you make sacrifices to get into that position. You might work extra long hours, you might not go on vacation, and you make sacrifices. So, same with a cult. You make sacrifices, and those things may not turn out to be monetary. Those riches that you develop might be internal things like higher ESP, knowledge of the afterlife. So, like, why scientists are trying to figure things out on this side of the veil, you're figuring things out on the other side of the veil. Uh, so, yeah, moving on from that cautionary note, because a lot of my work is how to make the occult not religious, not superstitious, not magical. Uh, because magic is just tomorrow's science. And when you really understand that, science is quantifiable. By definition, math is the language of science, of all our sciences. If you can't quantify it, if you can't measure it, you really kind of can't work with it and understand it. So we use basic observation to go into these cards. Let's go into them. So, and the video where we started really opening this up, we started looking at the symbols. And now we're going to look at the symbols. So today I woke up and I was like, let's continue this journey. And I'm like, I don't have the Rider-Waite tarot deck anymore. I had that one for years. And then I moved on to the Robin Wood deck for its artwork. It was very appealing to me. And then I finally moved on to the Crowley deck, which I would say is very dark world, muddied images. And then now we're kind of making a full circle back to the Rider-Waite. And I was thinking about getting a deck, and then I was just like, it's not happening today. So let's just go online and look at a picture of the 22 cards. They were kind of blurry. Let's look at a few that really stand out in my mind. And I really was looking at the death card, and I was like, isn't it interesting that he is riding a white horse? Whoa, wait, look at that Pope, that Hierophant. From the other card, looks like he's begging and pleading with death, and death is gonna ride right over him. And it looks like death is a force greater than the Pope, this prophet, this wizard, this religious wizard. I would consider a Pope, someone who has a connection with God, the universal power, and can maybe manipulate it, has no power over death. You look down on the ground, there's like a king of some type, and his crown has fallen off, not broken, but there's the dead king. It looks like there's some children down there pleading from their life, or maybe they have the plague. And so nothing escapes death. And it's more of a force. And when you really look at death, it's like a corpse inside black armor. So he's like a knight. So is Death card the fifth knight? We have the four horsemen. So plague, pestilence, and whatever. Death is kind of like the greatest of fears, the greatest horseman. Yeah, you can have the plague, but eventually you die from it, whatever it is at the end, which is also the beginning. We look more to this card and you notice there's huge like waterfall behind him, like Niagara Falls. There's ocean, there's a boat out there. Then you look farther into the picture, there's two towers of the moon card. Those are the two towers of the moon card. And is the death card actually behind the moon card? Or is the moon card behind the death card? Clearly, they're on the same landmass. Another observation is this force of death, in a weird way, doesn't really touch the earth directly. It has this horse, this valiant steed who actually has the ability to cross both worlds and actually touch the mortal plane. So maybe death, even though it's so close to us, is not fully a tangible thing. Hence, kind of like a corpse filling out this black armor. And so you almost have to be an art analysis expert to open up this card. So in tarot, when you're working in the Hermetics, these greater arcana cards go in the path working, and they connect spheres. They're bridges. And you can see directly, visually, where this idea comes from. Because those two towers of the moon card, it's like the other side. Like if you could walk into the card, be a part of their world, death and the moon are related. Now, let's move into the moon card. So let's say we're walking down this road from death, we're walking from the other side. We'll eventually get to a lake or the edge of the ocean. And what is there greeting you but this like scorpion creature? This kind of like lobster looking thing, this prehistoric primordial life form. Some of those creatures still live today and were around at the age of dinosaurs. So some of them are fossilized. So there are living fossils. There's a fish that is considered a living fossil that you have found. So we don't really know what's in the depths of the ocean, the deep. The ocean and the has ancient living creatures in it that have surpassed humanity and may even surpass us. They're like, yeah, humans came, they went, yawn. So the two cards are inseparable. And what I noticed by looking at these two cards and the Tower card of the Rider-Waite deck, I think the Rider-Waite deck, the artist, foresaw the Twin Towers bombing in New York. Because when you look at the death card in those two towers, you see almost like a city there. Those are too large to be trees, and they're too abstract to really kind of be a mountain range, even though you could try to make it into a mountain range. So there's clear evidence that through art and symbols and the subconscious and reoccurring patterns, and it's been preserved through time, the prediction of the Twin Tower bombing. Which brings us to the Tower card. It's literally called the Tower. They could have called it something else, monolith. They could have called it pillars, the two pillars. No, they are called towers. They could have called it spires, like a castle. These towers in the Rider-Waite deck, they're square. They have four sides. Like a skyscraper, like a very modern city building. And now, so we're looking at the Tower card. Are we in the same plane? Are we in the same universe? How connected dimensionally are these three cards? Very connected. We're looking at this one tower because maybe we're just not focused on the other one. We're just looking at the one. Maybe the other tower is there. So maybe only one of the towers blows up. Which one is it? Is it the side with the wild dog on it in the moon card, or is it the side with the tame domesticated dog? And notice there's a giant crown that's not broken. It's just kind of like falling off due to the lightning strike. So, and in a weird way, the tower is not completely broken either. It's a flames, and we see two people falling out. Could those be the same two people of the Lovers card? The same two people in the Devil's card, that were bound together? Is this a breakup? Is this a shattering? Has the balance been disturbed? Has polarization happened? Are they really fleeing for their lives? Did the mask drop and they now see each other for who they are? So the twinning, the mirroring, the duality is broken as they see themselves reflected in the other person on the wedding night. The fantasy was shattered and broken, and they're literally fleeing for their lives. This is not who I thought you were. This is not your social media image. I'm now meeting you, and we're too close, and you're just like me. You're a human being, and you have flaws, and you have limitations, and you don't meet my expectation. So I have a towering moment. I have a break from reality. What I thought was reality. The fantasy is over. The pin has popped the balloon. The Death card also has a crown in it, unbroken. Yet it's off the head. So I noticed there is a reoccurring pattern of crowns. And so this is how we're putting these cards together. Those three cards are like one and the same, seen through different perspectives or advantage points within that landscape. Notice, so I started looking at the mountains too. A lot of the mountains in those major arcana cards are small, and some of them are large. Some of them are snow-capped. So let's go actually to the Fool card, and there are snow-capped peaks in the distance, yet he's on some type of mountain cliff that's dry and earthy. And then, so it shows three layers. It shows small mountains maybe out the distance or far down below, but then it also shows a whole new range that he hasn't even achieved yet. So just like when you think you've made it, you realize there's new goals, there's new horizon. Just when you thought it was an ending, there's a whole new beginning. And so the Fool card is the Death card from a different perspective. They say, every ending is a new beginning. Close one door, another one opens. So the story continues throughout the cards. It just didn't end with the Death card. You don't throw down another card for clarification because the Moon card is related. The Tower card is related. And we also know now that the Fool card is there as well. And so in the Tower card, it's positioned what looks like to be like an icy peak, or a natural mountain spire. And the Fool card, there's a whole icy mountain range. And now we go to the Hermit card, and he's level on top of the world. Basically, he's on top of this mountain peak. Is the Hermit the older Fool? Through his long journey, he's finally reached the pinnacle of his career, of his life experience. He's journeyed so far, alone and solitary, looking down on the world with a lantern, shining the light down on the world. So he's at a different perspective. He's now gone up to the top of the tree of life. And now there's just as much to learn looking down in to the world was as there was looking up and through the world. And so very, very interesting connections. So also with the death card, seems to be the unifier of the whole tarot. This water in the background with the boat. You know, I look at the High Priestess card. She's related to the moon. She has 2 pillars. The Hierophant has 2 pillars. But really, when you look what's behind her is all that water. And I think even a little bit of a waterfall as well. Now, so water seems to be a huge theme. Mountains, huge theme. There's clouds and sky, huge theme. So we're seeing the 4 elements. When we talk about predictability and timing, it seems to be pretty clear. Okay, snow-capped mountains. What time of year is that? Okay, rivers, oceans flowing. What time of year is that? What season? What location? There's a lot of giveaways. You know, spring, summer, fall, winter, you know, October. So these are just like some of the repeating symbols. So the moon card and the tower have a connection, as we've explored, but it's even further reinforced with those flames. So you see the lightning bolt, then you see these little flame marks. The flames are there with the moon looking down on the 2 towers. In the middle of those roads is the flames, those little symbol flames. So it's almost like danger is already there, you know, hints, warning signs. Meteors, those could be seen as meteors falling. They're there. You know, it's already happening. You might have that like amnesia. You might be in surprise, like, whoa. But then it's too late. The tower, boom. I couldn't do anything about it. I just stood there paralyzed and watched. A primal reaction to danger. So we see these things reinforced. What's really interesting also in the death card with those 2 towers, you do see the sun in the background. And we know the sun is the sun card. So the sun and moon are intrinsic to cycles. And now we see a child on a white horse. Could that white horse be the same horse that Death was riding, but now this child is riding? Is this another rebirth card? Is this another return to innocence, the purity, the spirit? You know, so is there an alchemy process going on here when death? So we see death is a huge link to the whole tarot system, with its link to the towers, to the moon, to the sun, to the youthful characters, and the old characters. Let's move on. The Fool card. The Fool card is holding a white rose. The Death card is holding a banner with a white rose. Death is riding a white horse. What's next to the Fool card but a white dog? Let's see. Do we miss anything? We got all that. The Hermit. We covered that. I'm looking over my notes. Let's move on a little bit. The Empress, she's high up there in the tree of life, you know, and she has a crown of stars with a wreath, of leaves. Could be laurels, it could be olive leaves, who knows? And what's behind her is a very lush forest. And then what's in front of her is a groomed, manicured wheat field. So there's a polarity here of the wild and then the the tame, the groomed. Just like the moon card, one dog is wild and the other one is tame. One has been manicured, groomed to fit into society. So just like the wild is there, abundant and lush, but it needs to go through a grooming process to be made useful, to grow wheat. Another interesting symbol is she's wearing a robe, she's covering herself with pomegranates. Where does pomegranates show up? But with the High Priestess card, who is even above her. But this time, it's the veil. The veil is like a fruit, lush vegetation as just a sheet behind her. And it looks like what's behind the veil is this primal landscape of ocean and possibly mountain range. Who knows? I would say it's the other side of death. So the veil is this paper thin fabric that we see is this like Garden of Eden. And the Empress is like living in this garden. It's wrapped around her, it's surrounding her. You look, and there's like a river, a little stream, and there's a waterfall even flowing. So there's this connection through the land masses connecting the cards. So if you follow the path of the water, you twist and wind around a lot of the cards. And if you really look at the landscape, so the Empress is on the land. With the High Priestess, you don't know. She might be elevated a bit on she might be in a palace. She might be in a temple. The land, but it's still very close to the land, but there's a separation. Death is separated. He's very close to the land, almost touching it. Yet, in a weird way, he does not touch it. The Sun card, the baby does not touch it. Who does touch the land? Certain characters actually touch the land. The Fool card, the Hermit, their feet are on the ground. Lots of information there. Let's see. So there's so much actually with the Empress card going on. She seems to be a composite of the whole deck as well. So a lot of the cards echo the other cards, but they're different perspectives of the higher cards. So when I think of the High Priestess, I think of Venus, I think of Hathor, I think of a mother goddess, I think of nurturing. Let's move over to the Star card real quick. She doesn't have a crown. What's above her is the celestial stars looking down and crowning her. She actually looks like she's very busy doing her work, almost like she was called or she's a divine instrument doing what she needs to do. What's really peculiar is she's pouring water, one back into the water and the other one onto the land. And so I immediately think service. I don't think luck. I don't think wish card, which fortune tellers are always saying the Star card is. I go, she actually looks like a giant compared to the mountains and the ground and everything around her. She looks like the goddess has come down herself, a star goddess, and is now. Why would she be pouring water back into the water? Return. returning to the source, giving back to the source. I can see gratitude. I could be thanks. I could see replenishing the earth. But then I can also see at the exact same time, she's giving life to the earth, uh, making wet the dry of the earth and producing life. So she's very conscious of doing both things. I give back to the source I've taken from, but then I still also give to those who need. So I think of the star card in this formation as someone who's divinely called with a life purpose, who is called towards action, who's very much into the process of life, co-mingling and co-creating, very, very active, which is not what you typically hear. So you have to look at the cards and really pay attention, not try to change them, but you can have your own revelations about these cards. And this was just like, I woke up, had the cards in my mind, jotted down a few notes, and was able to talk fairly intelligently about the cards because the cards are already a part of me into my daily life. So while I was getting ready, putting my contacts in and grabbing my tea, I looked around my room and I'm like, oh my God, I have a card right here. Is this not a tarot card? Is this not the young fool? Is this also not the wise man? Is this, he's on a mountain, there's the mountain range. It's one person. And in a weird way, he embodies many of the cards. It's black and white, Look, he could be rebuilding the tower because there's like a stone. This could be the very first stone he decides to set. He could be at the pinnacle. Who knows? But this card magnetically attracted me and has been a part of my journey for a long time as a symbol of success, So it embodies the Emperor card as well. It embodies a lot of these symbols into a meaningful image that focuses and directs my life. But it's just a piece of art, but it's just a picture. But out of all the things that have come and gone in my life, this picture is probably a decade old. I even put my name down there. And what is onyx but a stone? So